I'm looking at a inequality mat, and I know it's an inequality mat because I have the dotted line right here and there's an equal sign. So that means I don't know what side is larger than the other. I simplified it and I have x on one side and I have 3 on the other side. Now if I read my question, it says, what value does x need to be to make mat A larger? Well, if I want x to be larger than 3, then x must be greater than 3. To graph that, I am going to take a number line, and I'm going to have a number line. It would have arrows on both ends to show that the number line is continuing. I can put any numbers I want on my number line, but I need to have my boundary, which is 3. So I'm just going to number 0, 1, 2, 3, 1. Now, as I'm numbering these, I am making sure I'm going up by even amounts. I can't just put any numbers, I must space them out evenly. And so what I am doing is counting 3 spaces in between each one. I have an even scale. Now my boundary mark is 3. Again, that's the number in my inequality. So I'm going to be a circle at 3. This time it's going to be an open circle. An open circle is used when I am using the greater than sign or the less than sign. If I have a greater or equal to sign, then my circle would be filled in. If I had a less than or equal sign, my circle would be filled in. If I go back to my inequality, I have x is greater than 3. So my circle is at my boundary point 3, and I want to show the numbers greater than 3. So I'm going to draw my arrow this way to point to the numbers greater than 3. What that is meaning is that x can be any number greater than 3, and when it is, mat A will be larger. It could be located right here on my line at just above 3. It can't be 3 though, because if x had a value of 3, mat A wouldn't be equal, it would be the same. Now, where we see this is in a problem, such as Kendra wants to save $1,500, so I'm going to highlight that number because that's going to be important. She wants to save $1,500 in her savings account. Once she does, she will close the account. That's important. She's going to close the account then. That means she's never going to have $1,500. Once she gets that amount of money, she's going to close the account, take the money out for whatever she's saving for. The bank says she needs to have at least $200 at all times, that's supposed to say. Write 2 inequalities to show how much she wants to have in her account. So what she wants to have in her account is unknown right now, so that's going to be my x. Now remember, she wants to save $1,500, and once she does, she's going to close it. So her money will never be more than $1,500. So x must be less than $1,500. Now, can it be equal to $1,500? Well, it says once she gets that amount, she's going to close it. So it will never be equal to $1,500. X also needs, she has to have at least $200 in her account. Remember, X stands for the money in her account. So her money must always be greater than $200. Now, could she put $200 exactly in her account? Yes, she can. So now it is X is greater or equal to 200. That is how I write those inequalities with symbols. Now, to do my number line again, I'm going to take my number line. I actually have arrows on both sides. And I know I am going to want to graph the numbers 1,500 and 200. Now remember, the important thing is my number line must go up by even amounts. I can start wherever I want to because the arrows tell me it's continuing in both directions. I need the boundary numbers of 200 and 1,500 on it. So I'm going to put 200 here. I'm going to count up by hundreds. I don't need to label them all, but this would be 300, 400, 500, 600, 700. I'm just going to pick 800 here, 9,000. 1,200, 1,300, 1,600. Ooh, my numbers aren't matching up perfect. Now it looks like it's going up by different amounts because this is 600 right here, and this is 400 right here, and this is 400 right here. So that's not always the best way to label it. So I'm going to change this. And I want it to be going up by 400, so 700, 600, 400 right here. Now if I look at it, I look at my scale again, it looks like I'm going up by even amounts. And my scale really isn't 400 because each little tick mark in between is worth 100. Okay, now that my scale is built, I'm going to erase these. Now my line is a little bit longer, but I don't need to go higher than 1500. And I'm going to place my numbers. I'm going to put a circle at 200, which would be right here. And I'm going to place a circle at 1500, which would be right here. Now my numbers want to be greater or equal to 200. So since it can be equal, I'm going to fill my circle in. And normally I would make an arrow, keep going on. But we just said it can't ever be more than 1500, so my arrow is actually going to stop at this circle. It can't ever be 1500 exactly, so I am going to leave that open.